The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello and welcome to the Copeland Center's webinar, Wrap Around Food with Dawn Heffernan. I'm Katie Wilson. I'm the Copeland Center's Director of Marketing and Special Projects, and I'm so happy that you all could be here with us today for this wonderful topic. I just wanted to do a little housekeeping about what the webinar is going to be like. So Donna's going to give her presentation, and during that time, please feel free to write in any questions you might have for Dawn. She'll be taking questions at the end, so we'll have an opportunity to hear more from her about your specific questions at the end of the presentation. This is a very special presentation for me because it is about food and wellness, and food is something that we all must have to survive, and yet at the same time it can be very troublesome about how we deal with it appropriately. And so to hear someone share about how they themselves use food and make it work in their lives is something that is always very motivating to me. So with that, let me turn things over to Dawn and give you a little bio of Dawn before we start. So Dawn has used WRAP to balance her own life for 14 years. In that time, she has accumulated a little wisdom she is keen to share with you. She was proud and privileged to take and complete the Facilitator Training course in North Carolina in August 2012, and she comes to us from the UK and hopes you enjoyed listening and sharing with her. Dawn was a primary and special needs teacher before becoming a WRAP facilitator. She knows the importance of play and diversionary activities. Adults often forget that the simple pleasures in life are the things that bring you joy and contentment. She has learned many ways to ground herself and use creativity to de-stress. Thank you, Dawn, so much for being with us. And please go ahead and start your presentation.
Okay, thanks, Katie. Hi, everybody. This is my wrap around food. I'm going to quickly whiz through these because we don't need them here. So the aims of this workshop are, or presentation, to guide you towards a healthy and balanced relationship with food, which will help you achieve the result of a healthy body weight, develop awareness of your current eating habits with no sense of shame or blame, to mentally and emotionally change the way you approach food if it's a problem for you, and to enable you to develop your own food-specific WRAP or facilitate that process with others. If you're working WRAP in any other area of your life, you've got a head start. I had a WRAP, or used a WRAP for 16 years for my mental health, and I developed one for the last 4 years to deal with food. So let's move on. Okay. I was one of those people who couldn't kind of like say no to chocolate and didn't kind of understand myself. You know, if there was chocolate in the house, I had to have it. As a teenager, I got into the dieting, starving, and all that kind of thing. And weight was a bit of a struggle. But my eating was always kind of emotional or restrictive. I felt bad. I got labeled greedy. It was a joke in my house. We have Christmas decorations in the UK, chocolate decorations on a tree that are wrapped in foil. And my family said I could eat them and get the foil back on the tree as if they hadn't been touched. So, you know, I felt like I had no control, and I didn't understand why I had no control. I'd rather always have sweet, fatty stuff and skip proper meals. And to me, it just wasn't normal. So anyway, during my first manic episode when I was 18, I put on 50 pounds in just 3 months. I ballooned from 110 to 160 pounds. It took me 2 years to lose that weight. Now, the medication didn't help, but I ate myself there as well. And that was me. So we're going to skim ahead a bit. When I met my husband-to-be, it was love at first sight. That's our wedding. Now, he had good eating and exercise habits, and he really influenced me. In 1997, I came out of hospital. I have bipolar, and found Mary Ellen's work and kind of never looked back, and basically developed a WRAP for my mental health, which meant I could go on and live, you know, there are my kids. I was a teacher. And although with the family I would cook meals, I still tended to be the kind that would pick all day. And I was never really comfortable around food. To others, I always had an enviable figure. And although I created this great WRAP for mental health, the nutrition part was still missing. The only time I rigidly stuck to eating well, that's 3 meals a day, was when responding to triggers or early warning signs in my mental health WRAP. So I'm just going to show you a quick flick. This is extracts from my Copeland Depression Workbook, which has been my journal since 1997. And it shows you the struggle that I had. Here we go. 2005, if we look at that, it's go down. It says leaving job at school, so the kids all gave me boxes of chocolates. Seriously, I got maybe 7 or 8 boxes of chocolates. I ate them all in one night. I mean, can you believe that? My mom said, you know, what's wrong? You look terrible. I was grey, lethargic, and bloated. If we go back 2000, I tried cutting out sugar from diet for 2 weeks and actually filled out the chart in the book. Well, I didn't do it. I was a Diet Coke addict. I was a caffeine addict. Where are we? Yeah, 2006, lifelong sugar junkie. Need to explore this. Well, you know, I didn't do it. So what happened for me was this. See this little nest? Empty nest. My kids kind of left home, moved on. And I started slipping back, really slipping back into old habits of eating. So I might go out the house first thing in the morning, no breakfast, no lunch, do a run, be really busy. And then about 5 o'clock, crash into a jar of peanut butter and, you know, and toast. And I knew it was affecting me mentally because I had poor concentration and no energy. And I was becoming increasingly manic. So 4 years ago, I went to see a Chinese doctor. And for the first time ever, I took my depression workbook with me and put it on her desk and just said, help. Now she looked through it and she looked at me and she said, you've done brilliantly. But then she poked my skin and she said, your nutrition is terrible. You're dehydrated, your skin tone is poor, you have no self-discipline around food, and you are a very stimulated person who doesn't need further stimulation. And it was like, oh my God, I felt so busted. She said that the Chinese treat food as medicine and they take seriously when they eat, what they eat, and portion control. She said not eating properly was connected to your mental health. She'd helped a lot of people with depression just by helping them to eat better, better food. She said in the West, we often starve ourselves or overeat and we don't have a balance in our lifestyle, which creates disconnect with our body and mind. Artificial additives, sweetness, and processed foods also confuse our hunger signals. Basically, she was echoing what Mary Ellen had said in her depression workbook and what I had been unable to follow. And her solution was really simple. I was going to have to eat mindfully, eat 3 times a day, and cut out caffeine and alcohol. Okay? So it's not a big deal, is it? Eat 3 times a day. She suggested porridge in the morning, protein, vegetables at lunchtime, and then vegetables and carbohydrate like rice noodles or something in the evening. Anyway, this was my journal that I did, that I started and I kept up for a year. We'll talk about that in a bit. So these are my journal entries these days. So 2010, it's so liberating not to think about the food the way I used to. November 2010, when I eat right, I feel so much better, positive, confident. Nearly a year of eating 3 meals a day. I want to keep it up forever. I actually don't crave junk anymore. So I took the WRAP model and I basically worked my way through it, making it food specific. Now, I wasn't aiming to lose weight because I wasn't big in the first place, but I dropped from a size 8 to a size 6. That's where I've stayed ever since. And I think my body's finally achieved a kind of balance. It comes with a health warning, this, to an extent, because I felt so well that I actually relapsed with my mental health WRAP. I thought, I haven't been hospitalized or routinely taken medication for 14 years. And you know what? I'm feeling so good, so I'm cured. You know, all I need to do is eat right. Well, maybe 18 months of living a life really too manically, with my husband saying, you're not okay, and my daughter saying, you're not okay. And in the end, my husband was going to divorce me. So, you know, it was quite serious, and I realized, you know what, they're right. So it's interesting that the food change made me feel so good. And I understand now. I'm in recovery. I'm in recovery with my eating. I'm in recovery with my mental health. But another surprising effect of the wraparound food was the realization that I'd been carrying a massive burden of shame, both for my mental health and my attitude around food. And I was able to tackle both of those and dump them for good. So, you know, good things can really happen when you look at your nutrition. Looking at some myths around food, overeating simply describes a behavior. Okay, there is no moral judgment. But here, what do we believe? Overeaters are lazy and greedy with no willpower. They're weak and pathetic and have no self-control. Well, the reality, folks, is overeating is a coping mechanism, and everyone has one. It's a legal, cheap, accessible window of pleasure. It's the most socially acceptable drug of choice. My headmaster would stock in the staff room all kinds of Krispy Kreme donuts, cakes, and biscuits for us to have at playtimes if we weren't on playground duty. He wouldn't stock heroin, but he might as well have, because quite honestly, the effect of all that sugar is, it's as powerful on your mind. So what I'm saying is your dysfunctional or overeating has had a positive function, and it's helped you cope with the ups and downs of life. But the problem is it can become ingrained and destructive. When food's in your mouth, the repetitive sweet, salty, fatty sensation takes you away from feeling maybe emotionally uncomfortable. And in the moments when you reach for food as comfort, you are at your least aware, most vulnerable, and least resourceful. People often say they hardly eat anything because, one, they're remote control eaters, they don't remember. And there is a condition, eating amnesia, where you seriously don't remember what it is, or that you've had that bar of chocolate. So key in developing a WRAP is acknowledging with compassion and kindness that you've looked after yourself the best way you know how. So don't criticize, condemn, or fight. What you're going to have to do is step back with curiosity and investigate what lies behind your eating. It takes courage and honesty. Overeating can also be a reaction to dieting and deprivation, like denial of hunger or skipping meals or depriving yourself of what you really want. They may lead you into overeating. So here's another myth. Being thin or slim indicates a healthy, balanced attitude to food and good health in general. No, it's rubbish. Feeling fat has very little to do with our actual body size, and body size is not the answer to your problems. Overeating and being fat are kind of this generation's biggest taboos. As I said, high sugar and highly processed carbohydrate foods release serotonin in the brain. This has been proven. It affects on you like the same thing as ecstasy. And high-fat foods release dopamine, which is like cocaine. That's why they're such feel-good foods. That's why that stuff in the staff room, you really don't want to go there. If you don't get a kick from relationships or work or anything else in your life, you can become dependent on getting through your food. And we're talking here like wellness tools. Do you have enough wellness tools? Okay. So let's look at the WRAP that I did. Basically, it was what would a well dawn around food look like? Well, I didn't know that. I'd not experienced it, so I imagined it. Now I actually live it. So I thought a well dawn. I'm comfortable around food, especially the trigger ones, which are high in fat and sugar. I enjoy and appreciate eating 3 meals a day. Make good choices most of the times, but I've got no angst if I slip up. Very important here, I ditched the Diet Coke, the caffeine, and the booze because I don't need it or want it. I do have a glass of wine sometimes, and I like a glass of champagne, but that's it. I plan and shop ahead most days, and I now maintain a stable weight without trying. I suggest you do this. You could imagine if you wanted to be comfortable around food, what would that look like? My daily maintenance is, your daily maintenance will develop from understanding of why your eating's become problematical. Some suggestions. Are you ravenous because what you eat isn't nourishing or sustaining? And that's actually more common than you might think. I feel satisfied now I eat nourishing food and I rarely have cravings. Do you turn to food because you lack wellness tools? Do you deprive yourself of certain foods because you've classed them as intrinsically bad and then crave them? Try turning those forbidden foods into ordinary foods and they'll lose their power over you. Do you keep going on new diets and promising yourself you'll lose weight, but then failing, so you're yo-yoing and you feel guilty and hopeless if you put on weight and you feel good if you take weight off? Are your portions too big? Do you need help with that? You need to start understanding, what it is that lies behind what you're doing. So with my daily maintenance, I'll shop and plan for meals ahead. I do some form of exercise most days. 3 meals a day, limit my intake of caffeine and alcohol. This is a big thing for me. Avoid grazing or snacking between meals, because I was never really hungry because I was either grazing all the time or I've gone so long without food that my kind of body-brain messages were confused and I didn't experience hunger. Keeping a food diary and recording your feelings is important, not to beat yourself up, but just to kind of have a look, because it will help you with your triggers and your early warning signs. Eat a wide range of food and don't obsess. And then for me, it was a glass of water and drink throughout the day. So triggers around food, what are they? What can you do about them? Now, my triggers, and again, my WRAP is my WRAP, yours will be your own, but some of them you might recognize. Exhaustion and tiredness led me to those foods, those high sugar things. And actually, you know what? I can drink water and go to bed. If I want to go to bed at 8:30 in the evening, I can. You know, it's like my body saying, actually, I'm tired. Emotional reactions like anger or frustration, you know, you put your diversionary activities in there. If you're bored, find a distraction. Now, eating very rich food is a weird one, but I love creamy, rich food, and it doesn't love me. I get indigestion, I can't sleep. And basically, I ditch that now. Dehydration, make sure I'm drinking enough. Sometimes we think we're hungry, we're actually very thirsty. Being at my parents' house was a trigger because they have a drawer and it's filled with cheesy footballs and crisps and chocolate stuff that I love. So I would be prepared. I'd know that drawer's there. And usually if I eat my breakfast, lunch and dinner, I'm not going to snack anyway because I have no room to. So as you see it kind of going down, shopping when hungry, that's a big no-no. Not having quality food in the house, again, it's planning ahead. And, you know, if you're out and about, have a healthy snack. So you need to identify your triggers, and your response to I eat too many biscuits shouldn't really be because I'm greedy or hopeless or useless or lazy or menopausal. Okay, or laugh at yourself or diminish it. Have a wonder, why do you do it? Yeah, knowing what lies behind your particular eating difficulty is the key to stopping it, and work with yourself with compassion rather than judgment. Be aware of the safe, superficial and self-depreciatory attitude. You know, don't put yourself down or pretend everything's fine or put it off till tomorrow. Triggers can be specific to situations, to people, to places. Maybe you're at a party and you're shy, so you're chowing down on the buffet. You know, think about those trigger situations. What is it helping you to manage, or is it helping you to avoid something? And patterns will emerge. If you don't know what your problems are, then you don't know what to do or how to tackle them. So self-observation and increased awareness around food is vital. You know, if you're dysfunctional eater, then you are. Justifications for why or how don't help. But eating with awareness and curiosity, yeah, will break the kind of taboos. If there are donuts at a meeting you go to, how does it make you feel? You know, you can't give up eating, but you might need to protect yourself for a while. You know, you could ask for them to be removed. Let's look at this. Early warning signs. Okay, my early warning signs are I'm going to be a secret eater. I'm snacking again. Before I would have said, no, I'm not having pudding. Then I would, that's dessert, I don't know if you call it the same thing. Then I would go in the kitchen, maybe later on, and cut myself, you know, a slice and have that on my own in the kitchen, and maybe have a bit more and a bit more. You know, now I'm at the table, I'll have dessert with everyone else. So secret eating or snacking, not exercising, not liking myself, drinking more caffeine and alcohol, avoidance of feelings, missing breakfast, feeling just yuck and not hungry, eating whilst watching TV or reading, craving the sugar, salt, fatty foods. They're all my early warning signs that, hey, I'm starting to slip here. Eating whilst watching TV or reading, well, that's a problem because you actually need to eat your food and appreciate your food, your eyes, your brain, to register that you're eating. And if you have a habit of eating walking along the road, or eating doing something else, or maybe eating standing up, you're not really giving those, you know, your body and brain that chance to work together and say, actually, I'm enjoying this and I'm satisfied. So my action plan for my early warning signs, back to daily maintenance and record a food diary for 5 days. If I'm, you know, I've got the chocolates, share them out. You know, make the eating public, don't sneak back, but eat with others. And one thing you can do is bringing your mind back in touch with your body. So if you are finding yourself eating, just pause for 60 seconds and bring awareness to what you're doing. Again, not, oh, I'm really bad here, I'm messing up, but just like, oh, I have my hand in the cereal packet. That's interesting. What am I doing? Yeah? Remind yourself, this is for me, I remind myself how well I feel when I eat right, and exploring then the emotion I'm feeling, even if it makes me uncomfortable. So when things are breaking down, with me, if there have been more than 10 days of not eating properly and I'm slipping out of routine or I'm feeling increasingly out of control, I know things are breaking down. I've got to tell you, this has not happened for quite a long time. So my action plan with that would be plan for meals for a week and shop for food, exercise, be strict about not snacking, probably go back and see my Chinese doctor, look at my mental health wrap and focus on what's happening, you know, what's my internal dialogue, kind of, you know, sort of what's going on here. So I don't go on to crisis here with my wrap around food because I kind of don't really need to. I think for me, that's when things are breaking down and then I can deal with it there. Now, if you're going to do a wrap around food, I suggest one thing that you will do that would help you is to just tackle your fears, okay? Because I did this and it really did help. My fears around eating normally, you know, like 3 meals a day, well, like, what if I got hungry between meals? Now, this might sound, it was a real fear of mine because I wasn't used to hunger, because I either didn't experience it or I was grazing, so I never had it. Now, I rationalized that I wouldn't starve between lunch and dinner. I mean, starving is when you haven't eaten for months, you know, or weeks or whatever. I mean, you know, starving is when, you know, I said in the conference in America, you've got a dying baby in your arms because there's no food. So it was just like, for goodness sake, Dawn, get a grip. So hunger was a normal sensation I had to relearn. And also it was a shock experiencing that my stomach would fill up when I ate and then it would gradually empty, you know, and I got used to that. So however irrational or crazy your fears are, write them down. Okay, what if I got bored? That was when my daughter said to me, you'll get bored eating 3 meals a day. And having been ill-disciplined around food, I realized I needed to plan ahead. But also I realized fresh, unprocessed food is never boring. You know, if you're going to change eating habits, you've got to plan ahead, because it's easy to go back to what you've always done. Not because you're bad, but just because that's the way you've been. So you need to sort of plan ahead. But you know, what's boring to me now is eating crap. That is really boring. Here's another one. What's a reasonable portion? How will I know how much to eat? And at the first international conference in the States 4 years ago, there were quite a few buffets, and I hate wasting food. And honestly, it was quite seriously a bit of a panic situation for me. Like, how much will I put on my plate? And what if I have too much on there? And what if I don't have enough? But, you know, I allowed myself to experiment, and I actually got used to, you know, portion control. Another one, if I ate 3 meals a day and snacked, wouldn't I become enormous? Well, the whole point was that I wasn't going to be snacking. And I think I had fears of my previous weight gain from when I was 18. And I think if you have put on lots of weight in your past, or you've been a yo-yo dieter, that might be a fear. But actually, those fears were me becoming out of control were groundless. When I eat 3 meals a day, I don't have room to snack and I enjoy my food. And kind of what would motivate me to keep it up? Well, I felt my mental health was at stake. And I have to say to you, if you're using a wrap for your mental health at all, you really, really, really kind of emphasize, look at your nutrition. It is key in there. I went to Dr. Billings when I needed to, and my whole family loved and benefited from the change in lifestyle. My mum said, my God, when I was on the phone to you, you used to always have something in your mouth because you'd be snacking. If I was in my kitchen, I was always snacking. Now, everyone's fears will be individual and differ significantly. So, you know, address your fears or they'll hold you back, and maybe we can explore some, you know, later on in the questions and answers. So the 5 pillars or 5 concepts of WRAP, they are hope. Okay? Well, in context that one, we'll look back at hope. My hope is you can get comfortable around food. I did, and you can. I lived for about 46 years as what is called a disordered eater. Now I feel like I'm treating myself by nourishing myself properly. I don't feel deprived. Yeah? depriving myself has become associated with eating high sugar, processed fatty food, and the food that's what I used to crave and often ate alone. So the next one is personal responsibility. Okay, like any wrap around food will take you time, effort, patience, perseverance, and active participation to develop. You're going to explore and understand how you use food and get to know yourself and your relationship with it. If you put weight on, it's really easy to abdicate your responsibility and blame the effect on medication. Now, medication can be implicated, we know that, but then you maybe bear even more responsibility to lessen that impact by increased activity and increased awareness of what you may be eating. You know, it's not your genes, it's not a sweet tooth, it's not your mother's fault. I choose what I eat, when, where, and how. And with my wraparound food, I can choose, and you can. I think people with mental health concerns need to be particularly cautious because I think they may be very sensitive to the mood-altering properties of food. I think people with mental health challenges are kind of sensitive, and so things will have a greater impact on them. My sister put on 42 pounds and blamed the menopause, and I did a food wrap with her, and 2 years later she's back to her normal size. She had just developed some poor eating habits, she was leading a sedentary lifestyle, and she didn't realise it. Okay, so thinking about what personal responsibility means to you. I mean, depression and mental health issues often drive dysfunctional eating, you know, and vice versa. And it makes it hard because the two become so entwined, but it doesn't render you powerless. Mary Ellen's mum became a nutritionalist, and I just think, Kate, you are a clever woman. You know, she learned and understood the importance of food and mood, and she was way ahead of her time. So I know my eating has a direct impact on my mental health, and I guess my challenge to you all in forming your food wrap is, you know, what about you? Okay, education, big one. I think the diet industry has parallels with the pharmaceutical industry in that we can become victims of powerful marketing lobbying and our own ignorance. Do you know that a lot of people's eating difficulties start as a result of them going on their first diet? So they lose weight, but then they put it on, and then that sets them up for life. Do you know that some of the artificial sweeteners in diet fizzy drinks are 300 to 500 times sweeter than ordinary sugar? I'll say that again. They are 300 to 500 times sweeter. So you think you're helping yourself by having a diet drink. In actual fact, you're recalibrating your taste buds, so no natural food will ever taste sweet enough again. Okay, our whole society is conflicted about food, and even experts don't agree on what we should be eating. And then there's the media obsession with women's bodies. You know, it's no wonder that people's weight directly correlates with their self-esteem and their self-image. You've got to become your own expert, question nutrition advice, and start trusting your own body. How do the foods affect you? How do you feel? Yeah, I know when I'm doing my wrap around food, I'm feeling better. I have good energy. I know sugar makes me lethargic, puffy-eyed. You know, read all that Mary Ellen has to say about nutrition and mental health, because luckily she is someone that we can trust. You're going to have to learn about your triggers and your early warning signs, creating action plans and revising them. Now, for a year, I kept a diary and recorded what I ate, when I ate it, and how I felt, because I needed my journey to be disciplined. And I can't stress how important this activity was to me and my food recovery journey. I had so little awareness initially, but by writing it down, I became aware and able to identify my triggers and then action plans to deflate them. Yeah, so I didn't see it as a chore. And remember, this is about dealing with yourself with compassion, not beating yourself up. Food is just food. You're not going to be a better person if you're 2 stone lighter. Yeah, you're just going to be you. You might feel a bit healthier, but you know, you're not bad if you ate this, and you're good if you ate that. We need to take that kind of emotion away from the food. Self-advocacy, okay, know your needs and speak up for them. I said to my mother-in-law at Christmas, you know, please don't bring us loads of sweets and cakes and biscuits. You know, my husband's a serious cyclist. He doesn't want it. My girls don't really need it. So we discussed what she could do. So she brought a bag of seasonal fruit, and we had a great time making a fruit cocktail for dessert. You know, I can say if someone's made a cake, I can say, I love that you made that cake. Could I take a piece and have it later, or take a piece for my husband? You know, maybe I'll take a chocolate and have it after my meal. I think it's wrong in WRAP workshops or anywhere that I went to a workshop and somebody had provided donuts at the break, and there were people at that workshop who were obese and diabetic, and they're all eating the donuts. And I'm like, I don't see those as a treat, folks. You know, I don't see it as a treat to fill my body with rubbish. You know, discuss with your doctor the relationship between weight gain and maybe the drugs that you're taking. Ask for help and advice. You know, in USA, sometimes your portion sizes really kind of like shock me. I don't know what you can do. Is it possible that you can ask for half a portion? You know, are you aware what a reasonable portion is? Do you worry about creating a scene or giving offense? I mean, you know, these are all things to consider. The last one is the support. So there's Gina, there's me at my Copeland Facilitator Training, my daughters, me on a cycling holiday, my family from years ago. Mary Ellen says we need at least 5 supporters. You know, maybe you could work with a nutritionalist. Maybe you could go on this WRAP journey with friends. Maybe you can join a forum. We have some like www.beyondchocolate.co.uk. Maybe there are others who, you know, who could kind of work with you. I want you to share your struggle. I want you to find a place to dump any shame, guilt, self-criticism or self-disgust you may feel, because believe me, you don't deserve it, you know, and don't expect the impossible, because you may relapse, you may struggle, you're in recovery and you're on a learning curve. And that's where supporters can really help you. Remember, I say wraparound food is not about losing weight. It's about understanding why you've developed a problematical relationship towards food. But the effect of tackling that will inevitably be, I think, that you will lose weight. I mean, I realized I needed a separate WRAP for food and created that eating plan, and you can too. Now, friends are not always supportive. You know, it'd be like I'd go to a party and like, what do you mean you're not drinking alcohol? That's ridiculous, you know. And I'm the best at, I might have like 1% wine in my glass and the rest of it's filled up with sparkling water. And I don't need alcohol to kind of relax, or, you know, I'm not a shy person. That's not my nature. So, you know, I can party on down, but it's just easier to make it look like I'm having a drink even though I'm not. You know, you find ways around it. Maybe you go out and your mom or your friend, you always have coffee and cake together. You know, maybe that's what you do. And of course, they're not going to like it that you're not going to have cake anymore, maybe. You know, you have to stand your ground. So what I want you to take away today with you is the fact that making dietary changes is not easy. It certainly requires changes in habits that have developed over a lifetime, but I can't live a mental health WRAP if I'm eating badly. That's what I realized, you know, and it does get easier and easier because somehow, you know, I was a Diet Coke addict, okay? Now, if I have a Diet Coke, it just tastes of chemicals to me. I think it's disgusting. I don't know why anyone eats it. And there was one time when my husband went skiing, and I thought it was funny because I made cheesecake, and my girls, we had cheesecake for breakfast and for lunch and for dinner. I thought it was funny, you know. I don't think that's funny now. I kind of like think, oh my God, did I do that? And Christmas and Easter used to be filled with, oh my God, just so much angst for me because there'd be all these chocolate Easter eggs and I would eat my brothers and sisters as well as my own. I don't do that. I can have chocolate in my cupboard now and it doesn't bother me. I never thought I would get to that stage. So, you know, that's why I'm saying you can make these changes. Keep a food diary, however you want to write it or journal it. Sometimes I forget, you know, I might not have written for a couple of days and then I'll go back. And don't beat yourself up again if you don't keep that up. You're increasing your awareness of what, why, and how much you are eating to reduce this eating amnesia. You know, they have a program in the UK, Secret Spies, where somebody will say, oh, I don't eat very much, but I just can't lose weight. And they put cameras in their house and then they follow them around and the people don't know they're being followed around. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they present them with what they were actually eating. And these people are shocked because maybe they don't have breakfast at home, but they'll go to work and they'll go to the vending machine on the 3rd floor and have 3 bars of chocolate. So then they present these people with an 8-week eating plan, and all of them lose weight on it. So that's why recording, and maybe recording how you're feeling, yeah, and maybe recording, I'm really hungry, I really want X, Y, or Z, yeah, it'll point you in the right direction. Most of us underestimate the number of calories we eat, especially outside the home. I read a statistic that said that 80% of the food in American supermarkets has added sugar. That is quite shocking, because we really weren't designed to ingest that much sugar. So that's my format, my diary up there in the corner. So recording what you eat, when you eat it, how it makes you feel is the easiest way to explore and control your food intake. Remember, you don't have to be super strict. You're being gentle with yourself. This WRAP is done in the spirit of the Copeland WRAP, which is with compassion and kindness. It's not a reason to beat yourself up, and you're not a bad person, yeah, if you eat the wrong things, yeah, you're just someone who's trying to cope with something. So, you know, be kind. Wellness tools, just a little bit. I have food-specific wellness tools. I kind of found this out, really, and it was anything that boosts my senses. So smells, beautiful vistas, anything that kind of feeds my soul. Being physically engaged in activity, taking care of my appearance, throwing dinner parties, being there for others. They're all kind of, you know, I used to cook, seriously, cakes and shortbread and stuff like that because I wanted to eat it. I'd eat the raw mixture and then I'd eat it. Now I like to cook because I like to give it to others and share with others, which is, you know, that's really nice. So think about wellness tools that might kind of help with those cravings that you have and take the edge off of them. So I'm going to go over to you now with any thoughts, questions and suggestions that you might have.
Thank you.
If you want to share your WRAP, sorry, do with me, email me.
Thank you, Dawn, so much for your presentation. This was really great to hear about how you've used WRAP for food. I do have quite a few questions here, but if people have additional questions,
okay,
feel free to type them in. But I think I'll just start with one if you're ready.
Yep.
So here is a wonderful question we got from one of the participants. I often try to change my lifestyle, eat healthier, exercise, etc. I'm good for the first month and it goes downhill from there. How do I stay motivated to do things I need to do to be healthy and feel good?
Okay. I think if you're feeling it's a chore, then maybe like the kind of exercise that you're doing is not something that you enjoy. You know, there's a whole range of exercises from dancing, swimming, jogging, group things. So it's finding something that is rewarding for you, that you'll wanna, you know, keep up, and maybe doing it with other people so it becomes a social thing as well. The food one, again, it's like I don't call my WRAP a diet because it's like a way of life, like your mental health recovery is a way of life. So it's not, I don't feel deprived that I'm living it. But if maybe you think, oh, I've been really good for this month and now I'm just slipping. Well, if you did a WRAP around food, you'd be slipping probably because you'd been triggered, or you had early warning signs, or you'd get to you when things are breaking down. Do you see what I mean? It would be, in doing your, bringing more awareness maybe to why you might be slipping up, you would maybe find the key to actually staying motivated to do it. Because for me, the motivation is how good it makes me feel. So, you know, that's just a suggestion.
I think that definitely answers the question. We have a couple that are sort of all in the same about sort of specifics about how you use your WRAP, but I think this one covers a couple of them when asking, how do you suppress your food addiction, or is it that it goes away?
It goes away. It goes away, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come back sometimes. It's not suppressed. If you try and suppress something, it will burst out. But I think it actually goes away. I mean, I came back from a craft fair driving back a couple of weekends ago, and I was tired and I'm driving and I went to a service station, and I thought I got myself some. If I eat chocolate now, it tends to be like the 70–80% good chocolate, and I got myself some of that. And I only had a few squares because that was all I wanted and that was all I needed. And actually, funnily enough, I did what I really wanted to have was the cheap chocolate. You know, again, the high fat, high sugar stuff. But I knew it was because I was tired. So I bought the good quality stuff, had a couple of squares, and that was fine. So yeah, the cravings go away. Your taste buds do change. And my wrap might not be your wrap. You may want to have 5 small meals a day. You know, I couldn't do that. We make on average 200 food choices in a day. That's massive. So for me, the less food choices I make, the better. If I go to a hotel and there's a buffet for breakfast and you've got croissants and lovely Danish pastries and all this lovely enticing food, it's not a problem for me anymore because I always have porridge. I like my porridge. I put nuts in, pumpkin seeds in, linseed, dates, coconut, banana. You know, I put in different things. So, you know, that's what I would say. The cravings do go away, but you have to give it some time.
Well, that's wonderful to hear because I know that, at least for me personally, that that's something that I always think about when making a big change about wanting to go back to how things were. We have a wonderful question here that's asking, do you think someone needs to have a mental health wrap before they do a wrap for food?
Wow. No, because the process of doing a wrap is the process is it's in the doing of it. The stages that you go through in a wrap, whether it's a mental health wrap or a food wrap, are the same. I mean, I'm aware that I don't, you know, I may make it difficult for someone if they haven't done the wrap process because the language that I'm using about triggers or early warning signs, you might not be familiar with. But no, you can just do a wrap around food. Absolutely. Get that red book.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of us step into wrap from a different place, you know, whether it is something to do with mental health or dealing with complicated relationships or just any sort of thing where we're interested in really powerful change for ourselves. So I think that that is true, absolutely true, that you could start with a wrap around food, and who knows, that might lead into wellness tools that have nothing to do with food, but
And
are.
yeah, people in the group I'm facilitating at the moment, one of the women has got a daughter's birthday party coming up. So she's doing a wrap around that. Another woman has a daughter coming from Canada in the summer, and she's going to do a wrap around that. So you can, in wrapping around something, you're anticipating what might present you with problems, and you're getting ahead of the game. That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's one that really just speaks to me. How do I retrain my brain? My brain loves chocolate, 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 even if my body does not. How do I learn to listen to my body and not my brain?
Okay, well, it really shouldn't be a brain-body divide in that our brains and our bodies should work together, but I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I'm training to do triathlons, and I did a block the other day where I did a cycle and then a run. And on the run, when I got off the bike and I'm going for this 4 mile run, my brain's going, you can't do it. This is a bad idea. Really, really, you shouldn't be doing this. And then this hill's approaching, and I see the hill, and my brain is kind of like wants to send my whole system into panic, like, it's a hill, you can't do it, collapse, lie down. And it's really interesting because my body's really fit, and I love doing the physical stuff. So it's like my body's quite capable, but my brain's trying to protect my system. And in a way, it's the same brain thing interfering when it's going, have that glass of wine, that second glass of wine, or have that chocolate. I think sometimes we just have to put the body's needs first. Actually, in eating well and exercising, you're actually helping the brain and the body. Yeah, they both, but sometimes it's like in the British cycling team, which is very successful, their psychologist talks about the chimp, that we all have a chimp. And the chimp is the one that would be saying to you, that part of the brain that's saying to you, do this, do that, you know, eat that. And you can't put the chimp in a cage. You can't, you have to actually kind of tame the chimp by talking to it, if that makes sense, and giving it a little bit of something. But you have to work with the chimp. And, you know, maybe that's the way of seeing it, that's your chimp saying all these things. And you can just say, well, no, we might do that later, but right now we're concentrating on this. Just a suggestion, but it's helped the British cycling team because we're doing good.
I'm definitely going to think about the chimp in my mind telling me the things that are not always the most helpful. That's a wonderful, a very clear image of something that's going on. So I have two very similar questions that I think that would be great for you to weigh in on. One is, what if you truly believe that there is some kind of physical problem that is blocking your progress, so that eating healthy is not leading to weight loss, even though you're healthier? And how can you get unstuck? And we have a very similar question about taking medications that also lead to less healthy weights or make it more difficult to lose weight.
Okay, I'd say if you'd been wrapping around food and you'd done it honestly, without self-deception, with awareness, um, then it's probably time to look at some kind of exercise program. And certainly with my sister, who'd got so sedentary, she started off walking and now she runs. So, but before she just walked. So if you're not shifting weight, then looking at exercise. But it's the biggest difference to your weight is the food that you're putting in your mouth. Yeah. When I was size 10, before I did my wraparound food, or size 8, I was very active and did a lot of exercise. And I couldn't believe the difference that the food had made. Because when I was snacking, I must have been snacking on some very, high calorific stuff. So I would say you're really sure that you've kept a record and you've looked at all that and you're not being a bit of an amnesiac, then start looking at exercise. And on the medication front, you do have a right to go to your doctor and say, this is terrible because this is, I've put on a lot of weight. Drugs can make you put on weight, there's no question. But like with me at 18, I also ate. I ate non-stop. I had this delusion that I was going to be kicked out the house, and I don't know. But anyway, so you can also fool yourself. But it's true that medications can make you put on weight. They can make you more lethargic. So as I say, there are different kinds of drugs out there, and maybe working with your health professional to say, it's really not good, because I see people in my group, and if they're 3 or 4 stone overweight, it affects their life majorly, their energy levels, their self-esteem, the clothes they wear. So, you kind of can take that back and say, actually, this is not helping. That's just, that's just my suggestion anyway.
Well, and here's a sort of related question. Do you think people in the mental health field should support WRAP for food for their clients?
God, yes. Well, actually, I'm saying God, yes. WRAP, as we know, we are the experts on ourselves. So it's no good if you had a health professional saying to you, you need to eat this, you shouldn't be eating that, you shouldn't be doing that. That's not going to help anybody. I would say maybe health professionals could point out, like the Chinese doctor did, that there is a link between what you eat and the moods that you have. I mean, she's had so much success by changing people's nutrition. She's really, I wouldn't say cured, but she's really alleviated a lot of people of their crippling symptoms of depression just by them changing their diet. So again, I don't know, you can do it yourself, but yes, I do think that the health services should be looking much more. It's no good if you've controlled somebody's symptoms, say by their medication, but they have no energy, no motivation, and they feel bad about the way they look. That's giving you a whole load of other mental health problems, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's something also to keep in mind, particularly for people who are working in the mental health field, that WRAP is really about people setting their own goals and, what they want for their happy life, and so I think that people in the mental health field should, as much as possible, try to model sort of wellness and the struggle for all of us to maintain wellness. And through that, if you have the opportunity to support someone around nutrition and healthy eating and a wrap for food, that's great. Just keep in mind that you really want that coming from the person you're working with, and not sitting everyone down and saying, now we're all going to make a wrap for food.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, definitely. RAP doesn't work unless you're devising it for yourself because you're investing in yourself. Um, if it comes from outside of you, it's not the same thing.
Absolutely. Here's another great question that asks, do you feel that since you've changed your eating habits, recorded your food intake, and created the wrap around food, that you think more about food or less about food? So,
Less. It's really weird. I think I'm not tortured. If you have my kind of um, if you had my kind of difficulties, you would understand what I mean about being tortured. If there was chocolate in the house, it would call to me. If I was out somewhere, the chocolate would call to me and say, you really want me, don't you? You really do want me. That doesn't happen. So it's weird in one way. All of that is gone, and my God, it's such a relief. And actually, coming out to California for the recent conference, I hadn't had breakfast, so I had breakfast at the airport, and it was porridge. And it just, things have got calorific content on them now, and it said like 450 calories. And it was funny because my knee-jerk thing was 450 calories, that's massive. But then I realized, actually, I eat 3 meals a day. If I'm eating probably about 500 calories or whatever every meal, that's about right. I think that's about what I'm supposed to be eating. But it was just funny, like, how my kind of perspective was like, I wouldn't eat something with 450 calories in it at one go. It's like, it's just crazy, really. Well, I kind of diverged there from the answer, but forgot what the question was.
I think that answered it.
Did
Um,
it?
I do, I do.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I think more about the quality of food. I love it. Like tonight, we got monkfish in a lemon sauce, and I love eating with my husband. You know, it's just such a pleasure, and it's such a pleasure to eat with friends. Because before, if I was snacking, I might have made shortbread biscuits and eaten them. I wouldn't be hungry for dinner. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to have dinner. It was, having the self-discipline is what it's about. And self-discipline is good. That's all I can say. Yeah, it's a good thing to have.
and your wrap has helped you with that discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. I did try before 4 years ago. I did try a diet that was like eat 5 times a day, but it was too much for me because in a way it mirrored my snacking. And when it came in, it was too prescriptive. I mean, the thing about my diet now is basically if I'm doing it really properly, I will have protein and vegetables at lunchtime, and I will have carbohydrates and noodles or something at dinner, and I won't eat late. Because
Mm.
finding if I eat late, and the other thing is alcohol. If you've got mood disorders anyway, alcohol is, yeah, it's not necessarily that good. Alcohol and caffeine, because I used to have quite a lot of coffee. Now if I drank, I'd go to sleep at night and then I'd wake up, and I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep again. So I don't need it. And again, food, alcohol, and non-prescription drugs are all things we turn to maybe to try and um, control our moods. But they're all kind of cul-de-sacs. You get stuck at the bottom of the cul-de-sac. They don't really help you. There are much better ways of helping yourself than reaching for those.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Well, I think we have time for one last question, and I have a good one here, which is asks, I am a smoker, and I'm afraid that if I quit smoking, I will gain a lot of weight. It is a hand-to-mouth addiction. What
Yeah.
wellness tools might help me?
Okay. Because you've got a hand to mouth thing, you're used to having something in your hand, and it's like a prop, isn't it? It gives you something to do. So I would say getting something like one of those squeeze balls, they're kind of like a squeeze ball or like even blue tack, but something that you can fiddle with in your hands. And I would say the sensations you want to like if there are people out there who don't like their body because you think your body's over, you don't like the look of yourself in the mirror, I would say just choose one little bit of your skin on your arm or something and start to just moisturize that and start to love it and see if you can't spread that out to the rest of your body, because your body is wonderful. It doesn't matter whether, how big it is. Your body's carried you from A to B. without your body, you wouldn't be here. So it's like starting to love yourself. And I think with the Gina, I know Calhoun has done a stopping smoking thing, so I'm sure she's got some ideas and suggestions. She's an advanced WRAP facilitator. But I would say make them specifically physical things, and your triggers will be you'll be used to having a cigarette after certain things, maybe after a meal, maybe with a coffee. So you maybe need to look at when your trigger things are, and then change those a little bit, mix it up. So switch to drinking tea maybe, or switch to drinking a herbal drink, so you don't get those knee-jerk associations. And it's a hard one, you know, nicotine is a very hard one to beat. But if you did put on a bit of weight, I would still say that once you got used to it, you could take that weight off again. And being a little bit overweight would probably be better than smoking, to be honest, for your health. But, you know, I think that if you do it mindfully with awareness, you'll find those solutions. Get exercising as well if you don't exercise, because when you start to take up an exercise habit, you realize the massive effect smoking has on your lung capacity. And I think that would also help you. So, you know, there's another suggestion. Education, it's one of the principal, you know, concepts of the Copeland WRAP, isn't it? Sort of, you know, you need to get educated. What do other people do? Throw it out there. I'm sure there's websites and things as well. But yeah, it's a tactile thing, smoking. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this has just been terrific, Dawn. I do want to say a couple of things about the Copeland Center, so I'm going to take the presentation back from you.
Okay, can I just say one thing?
Absolutely, please do.
Can I just say, anyone who's joined and enjoyed this, please join the Copeland Center, because they're so, I don't know, I'm going to say naive, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but every organization has membership, and they've only just thought we should really have membership because it will help them grow. So, you know, if you haven't joined, please do, because it enables them to put things on like this. And the fact that they are a little organization and they've reached so far to so many countries just shows the power of WRAP and the power of what they do. Over to you, Katie.
Thank you for that, Dawn. As Dawn mentioned, the Copeland Center has started a membership program. You can join on our website, copelandcenter.com. We also have a number of really terrific trainings coming up, including WRAP Facilitator Training in Columbia, South Carolina on April 8th to 12th. If you're interested in that, please get in touch with us soon. There are still a few spaces available. And additionally, we have a number of other trainings in the U.S. in this calendar year. Also, we are currently recruiting advanced level facilitators for an advanced level facilitator training in Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania in June, and we would love to see experienced WRAP facilitators apply for that. And you know, it really is true that the Copeland Center does try as best we can to get WRAP out there into people's homes and into people's lives, but we are a small organization, and any way that you can help us with that would be terrific. And a really good, tangible way to do that is to join our membership. So thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you on future webinars. And thank you, Dawn, so much for sharing your plan with us. It was really very informative to see how someone has really taken charge of their wellness through using WRAP for something very specific like food, which is something we all must have to survive, but also get great joy out of, but without making it something that is destructive as much as it is important. So thank you so much, Dawn.
You're welcome.